like to press buttons. Right now, what do I press?
Boo, ba ba, ba ba ba, boo, ba ba. Who's the man who will speak the truth? Boo, ba ba, ba ba ba, boo, ba ba. Lone Candle's that man. Who's the man who will bring light into your life? Boo, ba ba, ba ba ba, boo. Ba-ba, Lone Candle's that man. Who's the man who digs through human excrement to present you the gems? Boo, ba-ba, ba-boo, ba-boo, ba-ba, Lone Candle's that man. Who's the man who kinda sometimes knows what he's talking about? Boo, ba-ba, ba-ba-da-boo, ba-ba, Lone Candle's that man. Who's the man who has a scatterbrained, low IQ, and weak memory recall? Boo, ba-ba, ba-ba-da-boo, ba-ba, Lone Candle's that man. Who's the man who plays games and complains that he sucks at them? Boo, ba-ba, ba-ba-da-boo, ba-ba, Lone Candle's that man. Who's the man who has been accused of several attempts of bestiality? Boo, ba-ba, ba-ba-da-boo, ba-ba, Lone Candle's that man. Lone Candle's here for you to bring light into your life. He will figure things out for you and then get confused and start cussing at himself, at you, and God. He is really just an incompetent boob, but he's still better than everyone else on earth. If that wasn't true, why would he even make this podcast? Obviously, everyone is an idiot except for him. Lone Candle is here. Let him inside you. Let Lone Candle penetrate deep inside you. He will fill you with wisdom. Let Lone Candle pump you full of knowledge, entertainment, and some weird things that you should probably try to forget. Lone Candle's here to save the multiverse. Welcome. The beginning of your new life begins today.
All right. Whoops. Anywho, that took a while to set up. It's Mark Zuckerberg's fault because it was Facebook giving me problems. Anyways, welcome to Lone Candle Live. Today's another beautiful, amazing, luxurious, glorious episode of Reply Guyan with Lone Candle. And I'm your host, Lone Candle. Now, let's just get to it. Oh, I gotta remember what buttons to press. It's been a while since I've done this. I've got a series of Xbox posts, Xbox X, aka Twitter posts, ranging from late 2024 to late 2024. But you know what? They're actually still quite relevant. When I scanned these really quick, and they could have been said yesterday, and it would be equally relevant. So, let's see what I replied to these random people who ignored me. All right, so here we have a guy, no idea who he is, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He said the left is morally driven to hate inequality and finds itself opposing human nature, free markets, and evolution. The right is the ragtag coalition of people that want to be left alone. Merchants, nationalists, the religious, libertarians. What unifies the right is the left. Yeah, I don't think, other than libertarians, I don't think these other people want to just be left alone. But that's not even where I went. So let's just stop there with that. But this is wrong in so many ways. But I really just focused on this. He said what unites the right is the left, and he's just saying, oh, there's this, must be this really, the implication is there's this really powerful left, and it is morally driven to hate inequality and find itself opposing human nature, free markets, and evolution. And of course, that's what he claims is the right, is these different groups of people who have to unite to defeat this powerful left. The problem is, though, the weak link is this is Earth. And on Earth, especially in the United States, but really even in Europe, there is no powerful left that believes in, that is morally driven to hate inequality and finds itself opposing human nature, free markets, and evolution. He is thinking of the far left. There are people on the far left who do seem to be morally driven to hate inequality and are, in fact, opposing human nature, free markets, and evolution in their ideology and beliefs. But that's a small, weak force. Small enough and weak enough that it wouldn't make sense for your major political coalition to unite to defeat it, because it's just not strong enough. So essentially, he's pretending like everything just left of perfect center is has these ridiculous views, and it's just not true. It's nonsense. And so he either actually believes it, or this is just like propaganda to try to unite people against this evil enemy out there. That's actually a really small group of people, although sometimes influential and certainly should be pushed back against. But it's not like the coalition to defeat this powerful left, because the left who believes this stuff isn't that strong, especially in the U.S. So anyways, all I wrote was, if you mean the left broadly defined, so if you mean the left broadly defined, not the far left, but just anything left of perfect middle, then most people who are from somewhere left of center to the far left are just liberals. They're just liberals who want free markets with some government intervention to increase fairness. And so, especially in the U.S. and even Europe, although I'm more familiar with the left right spectrum in the U.S., they believe in free markets. It's actually a part of liberalism, as in U.S. liberalism, which is you could think your moderate Democrats or basic Democrats, is a belief in free markets. And it's definitely not anti-evolution or anti-human nature. So basically, he's taking the far left, a fringe, a small number of people, and painting it like that is the entire liberal spectrum. It's nonsense, and we should call that out. Now, the right is just a ragtag coalition of people that want to be left alone. I think libertarians, honestly, are the ones who could claim they really want to be left alone. They're religious in certain ways, but they want to be able to, especially in the U.S., I think of like big cases or big things they want to do is they want to force their religious views on others. I currently live in a state in the U.S., a U.S. state, that requires in school the 10 Commandments. That's an obvious violation of church and state, but that's not wanting to be left alone. That's want to say, hey, we as a country are going to, try to educate our populace. Oh, yeah, we require that that part of our religious holy book is in the classroom. That's not wanting to be left alone. If certain bakers of goods want to say, hey, I refuse to make this wedding cake. I'll make it if you're a man and a woman, but if you're a man, I won't. I'm going to discriminate based on sexual orientation. That's not wanting to be left alone. That's wanting to be able to discriminate against other humans. That's not being left alone. Nationalists definitely don't want to be left alone. They want to, if I want to, hire someone from another country, nationalists want to say, nope, you can't. You can't hire that person because we're going to make it really hard for someone to immigrate here and work for you. If I want to buy something somewhere else, nationalists want to say, oh, no, you either can't do that or you can, but it's going to cost more because we're going to put a tariff on it. We're going to tax that. We're not taxing everything neutrally. We're going to tax something if it comes from a foreign country. That's not wanting to be left alone. And by the way, merchants, well, they want to be lightly regulated in a way that benefits them and disadvantages anything that's opposed to them. So obviously that includes other potential competition. That's not wanting to be left alone. It includes, the environment. Yeah, we're going to do something that hurts the environment. Yeah, well, we want that not regulated. But guess what? When you're hurting other people, that's not being left alone. That's you hurting other people and wanting to just get away with it because they can't do anything about it. Well, one way we stop that is we come together and form a government and say, hey, yeah, we definitely want merchants to trade and do stuff, but it can't hurt other people. And so, yeah, and so merchants want to be able to hurt other people without consequence. That's not exactly just not being left alone. As well as merchants are famous, businesses all over, they lobby for regulation that benefits them and hurts their potential competition. Again, not wanting to be left alone. So this whole post is nonsense, and I'm done with it. I'm done. All right, next one. Coleman Hughes here. I do know who he is, but again, doesn't really matter. He said, I've also noticed that conservatives are nearly always labeled as such in the first sentence, whereas liberals are simply journalists without an ideology. And his key example here, looks like from Wikipedia, shows Ezra Klein, who's first called journalist and then political analyst, and Benjamin Aaron Shapiro. Wow, I did not know his middle name was Aaron. That's a nice middle name. Wow, Ben Shapiro's middle name is Aaron. He should go by his middle name. Aaron is probably the best name on earth. I'm not going to lie. Out of all the names that I can think of, even like the fake BS names, Aaron is the best name. So, Ben Shapiro, if you're watching this, which I'm sure you are, you should consider going by your first name. And it is pronounced Aaron. Okay? Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, and there it says, American conservative political commentators. So he's saying this is some weird double standard. You got a guy on the left, and he's first called a journalist. And the guy on the right is first called conservative political commentator. It's a double standard. Well, no, it's not a double standard, because this is a false equivalency between Ezra Klein and Benjamin Aaron Shapiro. Ezra Klein, well, yes, he definitely gives his political opinion, no doubt, and I wouldn't have a problem with the saying liberal. He's obviously a liberal, but he really is a journalist. He is fairly classified as a journalist. And when it comes to his political opinions, well, he certainly gives opinion, no doubt. They are, all things considered, reasonable. They are logical. They are based on the facts as best we can know them. And even if you disagree with him, even if you disagree with Ezra, you have to acknowledge, oh wow, yeah, no, this guy's a good political analyst and he's a good journalist, even if you disagree with the ideology. This is not the same with Ben Shapiro. This is not the same at all. Ben Shapiro is just a pure opinion guy. And of course, if you're describing a journalist opinion and then a pure nonsense, or not pure nonsense, but an often nonsense opinion who doesn't take the careful time to make sure 1 + he's saying 1 + 1 is 2, to make sure he has his facts right, or as careful as Ezra Klein, well, yeah, then you're not a journalist first. You're an opinion guy, and it makes more sense to mention conservative political commentator. First of all, Ben Shapiro among conservative commentators is one of the relatively good ones. He's definitely smart. Boy, he talks fast. He's smart. I'm sure he gets a higher IQ than me. But he's also extremely biased in such a way where it's not simple. Like with Ezra, you know where he comes from. You know he's giving you an argument. He definitely tells you what he thinks. But it doesn't bias him in such a way where he tends to make just blatantly stupid mistakes. The percentage of the time that Ezra Klein makes the logical equivalent of 1 + 1 = 3 is very small. The percentage of the time that Ben Shapiro does it is much higher. Why? Because he's more of a political pundit. He's a conservative political pundit. If I wanted to describe someone very quickly and tell you what Ben Shapiro does, I would say conservative pundit. That's what he does. He's out here banging the drum for his particular type of conservative causes, and in such a way that's extremely biased, and in some cases makes really dumb mistakes that people who already agree with them, cheer, but that are frankly dumb mistakes and at a much higher rate than Ezra Klein would. Whereas Ezra Klein, I would call him a liberal journalist. I actually don't really it's weird that I'm arguing against this, but I wouldn't have a problem with him putting liberal in here. But he is more of a journalist, so I understand why you might not put that first. Because this is a complete false equivalency. Anyways, I've lost my own train of thought, so let's just see what I said. Bad comparison. Bad comparison, Coleman. Bad comparison. Ezra is more of a thoughtful liberal opinion writer and explainer journalist. Ben is a smart conservative pundit. Ben is more likely to troll and say obviously mistaken things. He is less of a journalist compared to Ezra. This isn't liberal versus conservative, but journalist adjacent versus pundit. Yeah, so the difference isn't, oh, this guy's a liberal, so we're describing it in one way, and this guy's conservative. No, the difference is this guy's more of a political hack, more of just an ideologue going out there, talking very quickly about his ideology, making frequent mistakes along the way. Ezra Klein's more of an opinion journalist and an analyst. And so they're definitely not the same thing. And if you think they are, you're just making a mistake. All right. Overall, like Coleman Hughes, though, by the way, overall. So, not a knock on Coleman in total. Let's see, what do we got here? Mehdi Hassan, another guy that overall I like. He's obviously to the left of me, but obviously I had some sort of disagreement here. So what did he say? He said, I loudly disagreed with Muslim/Arab voters who backed Trump, thinking he'd be better than Biden. But Dems don't get to judge. It was Biden's complicity in genocide and Harris's refusal to break with Joe plus Bibi that pushed these understandably furious voters into Trump's arms. So he's saying, it's reasonable that people, who are really upset over Israel's actions in the war of Gaza to vote for Trump because they obviously have reason to be mad. And you could also apply, because obviously if you think that's understandable, it would also be understandable for people to sit out or not vote at all because, well, yeah, they don't like Trump. Look what the Biden people did. It's understandable from like an emotional level why I could see someone doing that. It's also understanding why if a toddler wants an additional cookie and you say, no, that's unhealthy, that they cry. It's understandable why he's crying, but he's still a toddler crying. And Hassan seems to not recognize that. Seems to be condoning it. Well, it's understandable. It's furious. No, it's understandable in a way that I understand why you're all mad, but you're not acting right. In fact, you're acting unethical. So look, democracy sucks. It's a horrible form of government. It's just better than all the other kinds. And whether you're in Europe and you have a proportional system, or you're in the U.S. and for each election you mostly just get to choose between two a-holes, that's what it is. And if you really care about your vote, if you really want to have the best chance to make the best thing going forward happen, all you can do is look at your choices and choose the best between the two. Even if one is horrible, as long as it's less horrible than the other, then to contribute to the democracy, to contribute to making that one have a better chance of being in office, and therefore the less bad one being in office. So a net good, you got to vote for the one that is less bad. That's what you got to do. That's how you contribute. And being mad about something he did doesn't contribute. It's actually making things worse. So if you're of the opinion, and these are all ifs here, if you're of the opinion that Trump is worse than Biden, and you vote for Trump anyways, or don't vote, you've committed an ethical crime. Not a crime, but that is an unethical act. All we can do is try to maximize the good in this world. And you believe strongly, or you believe that Harris is better than Trump, then you should vote for Harris. And if you're mad and going, well, I do believe that, but I don't care. I'm voting for Trump anyways, not voting because I'm mad about this one issue. Well, you've just committed a sin. You've done an act which promotes more harm than good. And this will also go with you actually do think they're equally bad. I actually think they're equally bad, or I actually think Trump is better. But really, you, without being a petulant child, if you actually approached it neutrally, you would think Harris is better in your personal opinion. If your situation, your ideology, your thoughts about politics is, you actually would recognize that you think Harris is better, but you're just blinding yourself because you're angry about one issue. Well, that's on you. You got to be able to be a human, an adult, and all right, I know this sucks. I don't want to vote for this guy, but is he better than the other guy? And the answer is yes. That's what you got to do. That's how democracy works, man. What did I say? I said bullshit excuses, probably referring to this guy maybe, but bullshit excuses. You should vote based on thinking about the consequences, not out of a toddler fit. Okay. Now, anything else on this? Yeah, I would say if you're not in a battleground state in the U.S. In the U.S., like only a handful of states actually matter in many elections, or if it's not an election that's going to be close in the first place, in that case, it doesn't really matter because the consequence of your vote is truly meaningless. So what I'm saying is really most true, or maybe even only true, if it's truly election where both sides have a chance to win, or else your vote really doesn't matter, and a protest vote, doesn't make a difference. I personally still always vote for who I most think is best rather than to complain. But my argument here is really strongest if it's actually a contested election where you're contributing towards one guy or another guy winning. That's the your little bitty contribution, your one little vote. That's where you're pushing. Are you pushing this way? Or you're pushing that way. And if you think this one is net better, even if you're mad at him, you got to push that way, or else you're contributing to evil just because you're mad. And it's not cool. Anyways. Right. All right. So I think I have 3 posts all of this video, and I think the first one I'm responding what he wrote here. The rest I'm responding the things he said in the 32-second video. So hopefully I can make the context clear enough without playing it. Anyways, this guy, which I do know who he is, I overall like him, but I think was really wrong in this video, and he's like posting this video. You're like, this is something I want to say, it's important, and it's completely wrong and confused. Anyways, Trump seems to want to end the Ukraine war, and I'm all for it. Negotiating a ceasefire means dealing with Putin. That's the reality. So when Trump's critics whine about Trump talking to a dictator, I have to wonder if they have any interest in peace at all. Hell, how else are you going to get it except by negotiating with Putin? So, first of all, if someone really made the argument, okay, it's bad to negotiate with Putin because that's talking to a dictator, obviously that would be dumb. The U.S. has to deal with dictators all the time. The world is as it is. And, to protect the U.S. and to maximize our interests, you got to work with dictators sometimes and negotiate with them. So, of course, this is not a good argument against that. But that's also not a serious argument. It's not like the prominent critic of how Trump is negotiating with Putin. The problem with how Trump is negotiating with Putin is he seems to be putting his foot on the lever in the negotiations to give Putin what he wants rather than Zelensky what he wants. Remember, this is one country just straight up invading another in a war of conquest, in a war to put in a puppet. This is a dictator invading a democracy. This is a people who Ukraine was a corrupt democracy. It's not perfect, but it is a democracy. So you have a people who to some extent get to choose how they rule themselves. In a foreign country, a neighbor is invading them with military force to say, no, you don't get to choose. That's incredibly wrong. And so the extent that the U.S. is going to put their foot on one side or the other, well, it certainly should be the democracy. It should be the country that's defending itself from an invasion, an unethical invasion, a war of conquest, or at least a war of putting in a puppet, which is very similar to a war of conquest. And so that's the critique there, is that Trump is negotiating stupidly, and he's negotiating apparently more in favor of Putin than the democracy defending itself. He's more negotiating on the side of the evil dictator invading its neighbor than on the democracy defending itself. At least that's how it's looked, and it's always kind of looked at like that with Trump. So that's the real critique. So I don't know. He's just taking a straw man here and attacking that. All right, good job, dude. But he's presenting it as these are the critics. Well, no, that's just something stupid. So I'm sure someone said, but It's not a serious argument. And if you're taking on only a non-serious argument in a situation like this, where it's just like a big public unwarranted post, then you're just attacking a straw man, and that means your argument's not serious. Okay, here's what I said. This is attacking a straw man. No serious complaint about Trump's actions are simply that Trump is talking to a dictator. The concerns are about Trump appeasing an aggressor, and that appeasing one aggressor can facilitate that country or others being more aggressive henceforth. Wait, one. I didn't realize I had more than one. Oh, henceforth. I'll read the rest later because I want to comment on that, which is I took it a different place. So I was focusing on the democracy in my live comments here. I was talking about on the Trump putting his foot on the favor of a evil dictator invading a democracy. But also important is, if you're an aggressive country and you more easily take another country, and part of the reason it's easier is because the leader of a great superpower like the United States kind of, in some sense, helps you by putting his foot on the lever on your side in negotiation. Well, that's going to make it more tempting to attack again. That's a serious thing, because then Putin's going to think the next time he's ready to fight, or the next dictator of Russia, even if it's someone after Putin's going to think, well, the United States didn't do crap to stop me from taking Ukraine. In fact, they kind of helped me in the negotiations, or at least taking parts of Ukraine. Well, they're probably not going to do crap again. You make more war more likely. A lot of people are like, oh, we just got to get peace at any cost. Yeah, well, when you appease an evil dictator, the cost is often more and bigger war. And so, if you're pro-war, you make peace and appease an aggressive dictator. That's what a pro-war person does, at least consequentially wise, because you make peace with an evil dictator and give him what he wants, there's a very good chance you're going to get a bigger war later. As they get more powerful and more emboldened. It's exactly what happened with Hitler leading up to World War II. And it's worse than that, because it doesn't only appease the current dictator. It doesn't only appease that country. If other countries out there see that the U.S. is ready to give up democracies and not help them, as well as even in negotiations kind of favor the dictator aggressor, well, then those other countries are going to think they can get away with attacking. Again, by appeasing a dictator, you get more war from that dictator from that country, but also from third countries who are like, oh, yeah, we can get away with this. And so they're more likely to do it. Okay, now two, additionally, Trump is weakening the bargaining position of the defender by showing such a willingness to end support. Why would the aggressor concede much of anything in a negotiation when the defender's key backer is talking about ending support? Now, this is from early 2025. Since then, Europe was always helping a lot, but they're taking over even more since then. So luckily, there's more than one key backer, but the U.S. would still be important there. Okay, let's look at the next one, which is me commenting on things he said here. It's the same post, but the things he said in here. So, the realities of global power is that power is more likely to be used aggressively if countries think its use will succeed. Russia, China, etc. are more likely to use their power to invade and kill if they think countries like the U.S. will easily give up on attempts to stop them. So, if you want more aggressive wars, then appease an invader. And, okay, this is the last one on what he said here. The reality of the war is not about the current state of the war, but the future of the war. Glenn's argument implies that there is no way Russia will ever give in or lose. But we don't know that. Russia is hurting and will continue to hurt under continued support for Ukraine. And so he's acting like, the reality of the war is, it's a fact. The reality, the fact of the war is Ukraine lost. I mean, that's essentially what his argument implies, what his argument that he made. But it's like, no, wars are unpredictable. Russia is hurting. They're losing a lot of people killed and wounded. It is crushing their economy, which is just a full war economy, rather than doing anything else it could be doing. They are also hurt because Ukraine is hitting a lot of their oil infrastructure, further hurts their economy. And of course, losing a lot of young men in war, horrible for the economy. So Russia's hurting. We don't know what's going to happen. Putin's an old man. He could die at any time. There could be some sort of coup. There's a whole bunch of unpredictable things that could happen that could make it so Russia could win. You could have a mass mutiny on the front line and just a collapse on the lines on Russia's part. So Glennon's acting like, oh yeah, we know how the war's going. We know Russia won, so it's better just to negotiate and get out now. And yeah, get out now. And that might be, a decent point if that was a fact. But no, we don't know. We could see how it's going now. We don't know for sure where it's going to go in the future. And it's not crazy that, something could happen to Russia where they actually have a great loss here. Generally, when it comes to this war, if the Ukrainians were like, no, we don't want to die anymore to defend our land and to try to get our land back, then I think the U.S. should, say like, all right, well, if you guys don't want to fight anymore, that's up to you. But if Ukrainians on their own accord, and by the way, this is the case, if Ukrainians on their own accord say, no, we want to fight and die because we care more about defending our country and defeating Russia and getting our land back than losing more men, well, they're fighting the good fight. They're defending themselves against an aggressor. Then yeah, we should support them with weapons and money. Yeah, because there's a lot of times people say the U.S. will defend Ukraine with the last Ukrainian. And the implication is, well, yeah, the U.S. is just using Ukraine, just using them, and then using their lives for whatever the U.S. hopes to gain. And it's like, no, that's completely misleading. What's actually happening is Ukrainians are wanting to fight. They're wanting to defend themselves. And it's just whether we help them or not. Okay. All right, 3 more. All right, so here we got David Sachs. He said, people seem to need a hysteria. We pivoted right from COVID is going to kill everyone to Russia is going to conquer all of Europe. Total nonsense. Eventually the light bulb will turn on and you'll see how brainwashed you are. So first of all, he's just making double straw men. Who is saying COVID is going to kill everyone? Who is saying every human being on earth will be dead because of COVID? Anyone? I mean, you could find people who said anything. But of course, that's just a ridiculous straw man. No one was saying that. People were saying a lot of people are going to die. By the way, a lot of people fucking did die. And then to poo-poo COVID as hysteria when millions of people died. Many of them who didn't need to die, people were more careful about spreading the virus faster or would have got vaccinated. The poo-poo that it's just utter nonsense. It's an insult to the millions of people who died. And frankly, it's going to facilitate more people dying next time something like this happens because people are going to think, oh, remember that last one was fake? It was exaggerated. People were in hysteria. When it's like, no, it wasn't fake. I'm sure someone, of course, there's always be someone who's exaggerated. But in general, no, it wasn't exaggerated. It was really deadly virus that killed a lot of people. And we need to learn from it how to prevent future deaths, not call it hysteria and call anyone who believes that it's a serious problem brainwashed or create a ridiculous straw man acting like the people who are worried about COVID thought COVID is going to kill everyone, which of course no one serious said. I've never heard anyone say that. I'm sure you can find someone, but you can find someone to say 1 + 1 is 8. You can find someone who says, I think poop tastes good. But anyways, and then here he has a double straw man. Russia is going to conquer all of Europe. The threat is continued invasion of Russia, continue Russian invasions and aggression, not necessarily all of Europe. I remember France has nuclear weapons, so it'd be unlikely that Russia could conquer all of Europe because France has nukes. But they could certainly conquer more of Europe. I mean, if Russia successfully took all of Ukraine, consolidated, and thought, holy crap, we've recreated the Russian Empire. Wait, we used to have the Soviet Union. We used to have even more control. You know what? They didn't do shit to stop us when we took Ukraine. And if we could take the giant country of Ukraine, we could definitely take Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, maybe even Poland. I mean, Poland's strong, but we're stronger. We're Russia. And if hell, even Germany could be taken. Again, if you allow Russia to consolidate its gains and believe that the allies, the good guys, won't unite against them, yeah, they could keep invading. So this poo-pooing like this, the idea that Russia could conquer more with a bit of a straw man to say all of Europe, but frankly not even as bad as a straw man as the other one, wow, that just shows a complete misunderstanding of history. Empires like Russia keep growing their empires. In history, you know how empires like evil empires like Russia are stopped? By force. Sometimes internal force, internal problems inside the country, sometimes external. And so the only way the Russian Empire, which modern Russia is just a descendant of they call it the Russian Federation. Well, much of the territories are just different peoples who were conquered by Russia, and that Russia bribes and brainwashes to keep inside them. Well, there's a very good chance they wouldn't stop at Ukraine if they believed they could keep going and people wouldn't stop them. And so this is not a hysteria. One thing, someone says all of Europe. Yeah, that's unlikely, primarily because France holds nukes. Secondary, because Germany's going to be much more difficult than Ukraine. Thirdly, because Poland will probably be more difficult than Ukraine. But there's much other smaller, weaker countries that would not be difficult. And if Russia doesn't think the rest of Europe will rally together to stop them, yeah, they're going to be really tempted to take those other small countries. And that's a real threat. And poo-pooing it with, it's hysteria because people were saying Russia's going to take all of Europe. It's just not taking the issue seriously. Fuck you, David Sachs. Anyways, all right, yeah. So it's basically setting up a straw man and then really poo-pooing serious things that were actually much more serious than they were, and then saying people are brainwashed. Okay, so I said COVID killed 7.1 million people. Now, it's tough to estimate. We don't know for sure how many died, but, there's two ways to do it. One is you're in the hospital. This person has COVID. It contributes to their death. The doctor puts down COVID's died, and then the person died from COVID, and that goes into a database. The other is you look at situations where COVID doesn't exist and where it did exist, and you say, well, how many people would normally die without COVID? And you can see how many extra people died, and that says, that's how many people died of COVID. By the way, these two different methods agree. They're roughly equivalent. And let's say, actually, these methods are doubling the amount. It's actually half what we think it is. Well, I'm sure I Googled briefly for this. And, so it's 3.5 million instead of 7 million? Well, 3.5 million people dying from a novel virus is still extremely serious. So anyways, COVID killed 7.1 million people, meaning it was a very serious thing. That's not the straw man of everyone dying, which is what this guy said. But it's a big deal. Russia won't conquer France and Germany, but they may try to conquer much of Eastern Europe. If they consolidate gains against Ukraine and rebuild, taking more land is realistic. All right, two more. And then it's time for dinner. All right. Steve Hank, like him overall. Obviously didn't agree with him here. Quoting Mearsheimer, like him overall, but not what they're saying here. All right, so he's quoting Mearsheimer saying, Ukraine is in the process of losing the war. If anything, the Russian economy appears to be flourishing, and the Russian military is more powerful today than it was at the start of the war. So I think the main thing that was a red flag here was this right here. The Russian economy appears to be flourishing. That's just straight up false. It's not a disagreement of opinion. That's just wrong. Now, yes, the Russian economy has not been completely crushed by the war or by sanctions. That's true. But it is massively hurt. The people of Russia are economically, financially, materially way worse off because of the war. Now, certain individuals, like those who make weapons or those who may got a big payout for serving in the military, They may have benefited certain individuals, but overall, this is a war economy. And the thing about war economies is, yeah, some people can get rich in a war economy, but overall, it's not good for the economy. It's not good that instead of investing and making productive things or entertaining things for fun, so either things that are useful, productive, or that are just make your life better, more entertaining or fun or pleasurable, instead of investing in this good stuff, you're putting all that into war. That's not good for an economy. You know what's also not good for an economy? Massive sanctions. That makes it harder to sell stuff and get the things you need. You know what's also not good for an economy? Humans, and this is part of the investing in something productive, human beings, instead of doing good jobs, doing jobs that could help other people and build them productive or other good things, they're going to fight in a foreign country. You know what's also bad for economy? Having tens of thousands of people killed and maimed. Those are people that could be productive Russians their whole life, are now either dead or seriously injured in a way that affects their ability, one thing personally, to enjoy life, but also to be productive. All that is horrible for an economy. So what this confuses is a Russian economy that certainly has not been crushed by the war or sanctions, with one that is greatly damaged compared to what otherwise would be because of the war. Greatly damaged. He's confusing a war economy with a flourishing economy. It is not good to be a Russian right now. Not that it was great beforehand, but it's worse than it would be. Oh, and additionally, Ukraine is blowing up a lot of Russian oil infrastructure, which means a lot less oil money flowing into Russia. Anyway, so that's just wrong. Let's see what I said. The idea that the Russia economy is flourishing is absolutely false. There's a point to be made that Russia is handling it well, but flourishing is a gross exaggeration. Russia is a wartime economy and is sacrificing the future to support the war. Okay, one more here. Post was deleted, but we could probably guess what it kind of was based on my reply. So, if Russia can take Crimea by military force, and the U.S. allows it, that will lead other countries into thinking they can do the same. Russia should have to buy Crimea. Still has a similar problem, but at least we can make it a legal purchase between Russia and Ukraine. Okay, so the top one is me reiterating what I've said before. If you appease invaders, you make it more likely they will invade in the future, and other invaders will invade. And often, in an attempt to get peace at all costs, you get more and bigger war by appeasing dictators, by appeasing aggressive countries and people, because they are very unlikely to be satiated for long. And because they have the taste of blood, and they have the belief that you won't stand up to them, they're going to come for more. And then when you eventually do stand up to them, they're a lot stronger. And you just got a bigger war. So basically, in your effort to get peace at all costs, you get a lot more people dead. Fuck you. All right. Russia should have to buy. Oh, this is just idea. I think that thrown out there. Look, obviously, it still to some extent appeases them. So it's not a great idea. But it has two positives. One is, well, obviously, you might be able to get an end of the war. But two, at least they don't just get it. They have to actually buy it. They don't just get it with military force. They have to actually give money to Ukraine. And third, it kind of helps uphold the principle of the international principle that no, you don't. If you want another territory, you're not allowed to take it by force. That's a basic principle of a peaceful world, is you don't get to take territory by force. And then we'd be like, well, it wasn't taken by force. It was purchased legally. And therefore, the U.S. can recognize it and we can move on. Obviously, that does have this advantage that Russia might think, well, they let us purchase Crimea after we took it by military force. Maybe they'll let us do that for Eastern Ukraine, maybe Central Ukraine, maybe Western Ukraine, maybe Latvia. And of course, other countries could think about their neighbors. So it does have that problem. It's not the perfect idea. But if you really were stuck in a situation where you need to end the war, that would be better than just giving it Because at least you could go, no, it wasn't taken by force, even though we kind of know it was, but at least officially, you actually did purchase it, and you got the Ukrainians to agree to the purchase. And so you can say, nope, this isn't me accepting that you used force. It's me accepting that Ukrainians agreed to purchase it. Not ideal, but in such a situation where Ukrainians will never be able to get Crimea back, they could either just hold that, Ukraine could just claim the territory forever, and then the U.S. could never recognize it, because we can't recognize it when you stole it with military force. But if it was purchased, of course we could recognize two countries agreeing to purchase it. So anyways, not ideal. I'm not sure how I feel about that idea I threw out there, but there you have it. All right. Well, I'm Lone Candle. Like me, comment me, me. End stream.